half out of the tent, and it was pitch black by this point, and there's lots of strange noises and stuff, and next thing you know, we hear hop, 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 hop. That's the hobbled horse moving off. What we later realised is hobbled horses can actually move up to 5 kilometres an hour because they figured out how to move their legs, you know. And the next thing I hear is a rock being dragged down the hill. That's my horse. And then I heard my bridle break. So at that point, we'd lost our horses. Mine was completely loose. Hers was hopping off. And we sort of thought at that point, well, there's nothing we can do right now. It's pitch black, and we're certainly not going out to look for them. Now, we had a £500 deposit on these horses, so it was in our interest to make sure we found these horses. And of course, you know, these were owned horses, so we didn't really want to have to tell the owner that we'd lost them. So we got up about 5 in the morning, and the horses hadn't actually gone that far. We caught the hobbled horse pretty easily, and this is my horse. 7 hours later, we still couldn't catch this horse. He was never with it further than a foot or two away from us, but he just did not want to be caught, and we tried everything. We tried pretending like to eat next to him and not, you know, give him eye contact and do all the horse whispering stuff and try and grab him. That didn't work. Tried getting on the other horse, and we just tried everything, and in the end we had to call for some assistance, and we also hadn't had water for like 14 hours at this point, and the horses hadn't been watered either. So when these guys arrived, there was 4 Mongolians, and I was kind of hoping they would really quickly, because, you know, then I'd have felt a bit stupid, but it actually took them an hour to catch my horse. I'd called all my horses after the phonetic alphabet, and this was Golf. He was not called Golf when I was reunited with him. And also, these guys that came to help us, they knew we'd been without water for 14 hours, and they brought none. That was the nature of this race, you know, there was no assistance whatsoever. So that made it interesting. So this was when we'd just been reunited with our horses. We had to ride another 3 hours or so to get to the next checkpoint. So after that, we sort of made the decision, me and this girl Sass made the decision that really didn't get any big prize for winning this race. It was more the experience of riding the 1,000 Ks across Mongolia. So we decided at that point we'd kind of like partake more in you know, the local culture, and, you know, sort of have a good time as well as we were still riding 13 hours a day, but we didn't get too caught up with the whole competitive side of it, because we sort of found we were making silly decisions. So, yeah, this is us in local Mongolian. These are called dells, and most of them wear these things. Now, a lot of our gear got stolen by the Mongolians. I might add, those dells are very easy for just slipping things inside of them. So quite a lot of our stuff seemed to go missing. But this guy here obviously struggled to steal my bridle without me noticing, and he asked me, like, can I have your bridle? Because for them, you know, it was a nice leather bridle, and he I gave him my bridle, and he gave me this bit of rope with a bit of metal in it, sort of, I think that was the bit. And I rode about 600 Ks with this Mongolian bridle, and it actually worked a lot better than the Western ones, because it's what the horses were used to. But that made his day, anyway. So, as I said before, there was quite a lot of dangers out in Mongolia, the dogs being one of the main ones. This is a so-called domestic dog, there to protect the gers and all the livestock. These dogs were trained, all of them were trained to bite, and they were pretty aggressive, and it was quite scary when these dogs, they were all meant to be tied up, but most of them weren't, and they'd chase the horses and try and bite your feet and stuff. And also, when we were riding out in the middle of nowhere, the wild dogs would come out, and they have a real pack mentality, and there'd be 2 of them behind you and 1 up in front, and it was pretty scary. But I soon realised that if you actually walk, you're not really any fun for them, whereas if you're galloping, they're absolutely chasing you flat out. so I had to be careful of the dogs. And in the night, if you wanted to go to the loo or anything, you absolutely didn't, because these were just walking around the gers. So now the other thing that the GPS where I ran into trouble was bogs. Only time that I fell off, my horse sank in a bog. That was quite scary, pulling a horse out of a big black boggy hole. And by the time we realised we were in a bog, we were actually right in it. So trying to find a way out, was quite challenging as well. Yeah. So you can see here, this is I'm getting water from this river. I'm going to purify it. You can see my little rope bridle in this picture. And these were all wild horses, and they were quite mischievous. They wanted to come over and say hello. One day I was riding on my own. It was pouring rain, soaking wet, didn't have a change of clothes, and I was up in the mountains. I actually felt quite vulnerable that day because I'd run into a couple of local Mongolian men, and obviously being a Western blonde-haired girl riding into the mountains on your own, probably not the best thing. And I came across a herd of wild horses, and they started coming over to see me, and I thought at that point, do I just abandon the horse or try and stay on the horse and risk getting trampled on? So I just screamed at them to stop, and they actually did stop, thankfully. So things like that, even though I had a tracker and people knew my location, that was of little help if you got yourself into a bit of a tricky situation. This is me coming over the finish line with Sass. We hadn't showered at this point in 9 days. Yeah, so you can see I haven't got saddlebags on anymore. I've got rid of all my equipment. It's a good way, if weight loss exercise, lost 7 kilos in a week, which was put on pretty quickly again with the week of drinking that followed that. So this is all of us at the finish line. I think I'm the only one sat in that photo holding a beer. There was much drinking to be done after the race. So on that note, I'm just going to say, if you ever get the chance to go to Mongolia, obviously, if someone said, do I want to do a riding holiday now, probably wouldn't really compare. So I guess if I went back to Mongolia, I'd just have to buy a horse or something and just sort of go off on my own. But what was brilliant about this race is it actually it raised £70,000 for a charity called Mercy Corps, and they help the Mongolian herding families. And I'm sure you saw in the news that they've just had an exceptionally harsh winter, and apparently they lost over 1 million livestock just through freezing and starvation. So I'm just going to end by saying, thanks for coming and thanks to the APF. And yeah, I guess, for me anyway, it's sort of set yourself a goal and go out and learn the skills to achieve that goal. And I don't think it's ever too late to do that. Check out my website for latest adventure stuff, and come and see me at my e-fly stand. And if anyone can tell me where my bottle of Jim Beam that I'm raffling off has gone, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. We're way behind schedule. Lunch break. We need you back here by 1:15. We've got Gary Myers up next. We've just skipped over Fiona's little presentation. If you've got any queries on that, just go and have a chat to her.